Welcome to the Locker Room Podcast, a Southland Christian Church podcast for men. We're redeeming men's conversations, talking about the right things in the right ways, and creating a culture of strong, godly men who fight for what matters most. Thanks for joining us today. Let's jump in.
Hey, what's up, Locker Room? My name's Scott Havel. Thanks so much for checking out the podcast. Season 16, we are in a series called Marriage, and today's episode's entitled Financially Wise. That's what we're after. It's going to be a great series. Locker Room, again, in this series, make sure that you engage your wife, fiance, girlfriend in this. This will be really helpful to grow your marriage and your dating relationship. My guests today are some really special people, Kurt and Lori Braun. How are you guys doing?
We're good.
Happy to be here.
Good to have you guys. So let me just talk a little bit about you guys, and then we'll give you a chance for you guys to talk about yourselves. So Kurt and Lori have been super involved in our church for a long time. They're big BSF people. Love the book. Kurt and Lori have been involved in mentoring couples for a long time, long before I had stepped into this role in family ministry. And so it's fun to know of their impact and to see just them serving in this capacity. Kurt's been on staff a long time, just retired 8 days ago.
That's right.
And I'm bugging him and Lori to come in to I just knew that you'd miss me, and so I wanted to see you.
Sure.
Yeah. And so I've got a couple questions just as we start off. So Kurt, I don't know if you know, but what's retirement been like? How does it feel? How does it feel walking back in the office? Have you done anything fun yet?
It's been everything I dreamed it would be. 8 days. I think I've spent half of that time chipping ice off of my driveway.
Yes.
And but it really has been a new season, kind of new rhythm.
Yeah.
I think I've spent part of almost every one of those days with at least one of the grandkids.
Oh,
so that's
good.
been fun. Yeah,
that's awesome.
So sign of things to come.
I know you got big stuff coming up. I know that
Sure.
you guys are going to travel and some stuff. But 8 days is not a whole lot of time. It's like just finding your feet and what does this look like? Lori, are you already tired of Kurt being here? Are you ready?
I'm not tired of
Oh,
it.
good.
It feels like vacation still, so that's
See,
good.
That's
It's been
what
good.
marriage is. I love it.
Thanks for asking
She
that.
might change her mind, but
Maybe.
What's it like, or what are you excited about in this new season?
Well, we do have a lot of travel planned. We bought a little RV, and we're going to go out west in March. We're taking a trip next week to St. Thomas, so we've got a lot of fun trips planned.
No ice
It's gonna
there,
be great.
buddy.
No ice.
No
That's
chip and ice
not
there.
the plan.
Unless
80
it's in
degrees.
something that you're going to drink, That's incredible. That's so good. Will you give us some context, Kurt? So you were part of a big company before you came to our church, and you felt called, which I think is really, really awesome. Sometimes I think people think we're just called to ministry, and we're all called to ministry.
Right.
But God had a different calling in your life after being at Lexmark for so long, and just felt compelled to come and be a part of this. And listen, I know this, and you know this too. Southland has an amazing staff. It's an embarrassment of riches.
Absolutely.
Lots of humble, talented, passionate, mission-minded men and women. But you played a significant role in our church, and you came in and you've helped us retire debt. You've helped us steward resources really, really well. We've added campuses. I mean, think about this. We've built buildings, Dollar Club stuff, benevolence, backpack programs, strategic partners, supported missionaries, church planting, lots of stuff over 20 years. Southland's in such a great place financially, and even weathering COVID and all these hard seasons. Our church is generous locally, globally, and in each of our communities. And so will you talk about your previous role 8 days ago and share a little bit about just some of the stuff that you've been a part of, stuff that you're proud about, stuff that's giving you a lot of joy? I mean, you love our church too, and so talk about some of those things that just been so meaningful to you.
Well, there's a lot I could talk about.
Yeah.
It absolutely has been a joy to accept the calling and be on staff here. You said we've got great staff, and so anything that we've done operationally has only happened because of the interest and the cooperation of a whole lot of folks on staff. It's not one or two people doing that at all, but it absolutely has been a joy because you kind of rattled off some of the stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been some tough seasons, including one we kind of walked into at the beginning of my time, but I am really pleased that we were able to kind of get a handle on the finances of the church. Yeah. We got out of debt we put together a very purposeful plan to do that.
Do you remember the date that we got out of that? You do, don't you? You
Um,
remember what it was?
Well,
what year?
I don't remember. The year was 2013.
Okay.
Unfortunate. Well, so that's the good news.
Yeah.
And that was from the old building project.
Yeah.
A couple months after that, we started a little thing called the Lexington campus. Started all over again. So I had to make sure we paid down that debt as quickly as we could, and we got that done in about 5 years. So 2018 was the last time we had any debt as a church. So that's that's great, but it's only great because that meant we were able to expand the vision of the church, more seats for more folks to get introduced to a life following Jesus.
Yeah.
So that's really the kingdom impact. It's awesome to be part of that, but also having a front row seat for a couple things. You mentioned Dollar Club. I mean, there are so many lives impacted by Dollar Club.
Yeah.
So many incredible stories. Obviously, building new campuses was a challenge at different times, but again, opening up the opportunity to grow the kingdom has been awesome.
Had you ever done that before, like when you were working in your previous job?
No.
I mean, you've been a part of all these architectural stuff and
it's a whole different world, let me tell you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So that was a great fun and great challenge. One of the things that personally I think I was really blessed with in my time here is, as people probably know, we keep very confidential anything related to what people give to the church.
Right.
But out of necessity, there are a very small number of folks on the finance team who would have access to who gives what, because we have to do the record keeping for all of that. And I can just tell you that this place has been blessed by so many incredible folks who have given to the church sacrificially. And the real blessing for me has been the calls that I would get to make to, someone who's been a faithful giver of, just a normal giver, if you will. And something happens in their life, and they write a big check to the church.
Yeah.
And so I would be the one who would get to call them up and say, did you really mean to put that many zeros on this check? Is this gonna be okay? But just then to have the conversation with them and just kind of hear their heart that, we've always tithed. This is what we do. We had this thing happen in our world. They sold the business or came into something, some money as a result. And it's so matter of fact. It's so natural for them to say, of course we tithe on that as well. And so to be built up and just be humbled by so many stories like that, it's been awesome for me. Yeah.
It's so wild.
Yeah.
So Laura, here's a question for you. This is the first question I thought about when having you on. Because everybody's different. Every couple's different. Most you talk about this in our workshop. Some people are savers. Some people are spenders. You talk about some that are tight. Some that are a lot more loose. Some are like, yeah, whatever, let's do this. And some are not. And so, marrying a man that for his whole career really has stewarded, navigated, managed finances for big, gigantic corporation and then a pretty big church. Does he ever get on your nerves? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I am not. Money is not my thing. It's not my interest. And we can get into that a little more as we move down.
By the way, I'm so glad. I think probably every listener goes, "Oh, good," because I didn't marry that person, or I'm not that person. So,
I married an accountant for a reason. I figured he'd take care of it all, and I wouldn't have to mess with it.
I love that.
But you know what? That's not the case either.
It's not the
as
case.
It turns out. She's the one who deals with our money.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You're like,
getting all the bills paid.
I need a break from this.
Exactly. I can't bring my work home.
That's right.
In high school, I took an accounting class. I signed up and I opened the textbook and I leafed through 2 pages and I closed it and dropped the class. I mean, it's like, this is not me. I've taught little children for,
This is insightful. The man that's run all this. And Lori's the one who does the books. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, of course you do it together, but still, that's awesome. So we have 5 campuses, big church, lots of people, and so they don't always get to know everybody. And so I just threw a couple questions there. How you guys meet? how'd you guys, how long did you guys date? How long you been married? How many kids? Any grandkids? That type of. So just give us a little bit of a baseline on the Browns.
I'll go for it. We met in college.
Okay.
We were part of the same friend group. So we knew each other for probably 3 years before we started dating. I didn't even know his first name. His nickname was Bear.
Bear.
Yeah.
Well, there's two things I've already learned new, Brandon.
Yeah.
Bear.
How about that?
And then he graduated, and we'd been spending more and more time together. And he graduated, and we looked at each other. We were at a wedding. It's like, wait a minute. You can't leave. You can't move 4 hours away.
Yeah.
And that's
But I
when
did.
we realized.
Yeah.
But he
But
did.
that's when we started dating.
And so we had a long distance dating relationship till we got married.
For 4 years.
How many years?
Is it
did
three and
we
a half?
date?
3.5
years we
Wow.
dated.
Okay.
And we've been married 40 years in May.
That
It'll be
is
40 years.
crazy.
So that's fun. We have 4 children, 3 boys and a girl, and 5 granddaughters.
All girls,
All
buddy.
girls.
Girls.
That's the best.
It really is.
And
That's
they
cool.
love Papa.
You know something about that.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. Almost for 40 years this year.
Coming up in May.
Okay.
Yeah.
Golly, that's awesome. All right. So today's locker room episode is entitled "Financially Wise," and this is a topic that's crazy important for couples. A lot of couples grew up in homes where finances weren't talked about. They weren't taught how to spend or how to budget. Plenty of people grew up in families where they were upside down and crazy debt. And then they stand on stage and they express some vows to each other, and then they just start marriage, and they don't have those tools, and that's a problem, And so Paul tells us that Christ followers are to live different, and this is important. We're called to a different standard. Our marriages should look different. Paul says this in Romans 12:2. Don't conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and prove what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. So really, Paul's saying, hey, we got 2 options. We can conform, just be like the world, live the way the world does, or we can be transformed by the renewing of our minds with God's word. And so Paul's saying, hey, if you're going to follow Jesus, then we don't just chase stuff that the world chases. We do it differently. He's saying don't date like the world. Don't talk like the world. Don't do marriage the way the world does. Don't follow the pattern of everybody else when it comes to how we handle money. Don't conform, but be transformed. And so we're called to live differently and have different marriages. And our approach to marriage and our approach to money should be different. And so, Kurt, there's some stats. You're very aware of these stats. Why don't you just walk through that, and you all talk about the impact that normal in our world looks like and how it's impacted families.
Yeah. Well, I think you set it up well. We can get caught up in what is normal. What does the world say? And the world says, hey, we'll consume as much as we can, and we'll enjoy life as much as we can. We won't worry about tomorrow financially or otherwise, quite honestly, with the ramifications of our decisions. So right now, and again, we live in such an affluent country. We've got the wind at our backs, and yet over half the households in the U.S., they literally live paycheck to paycheck, which is a sad commentary, but it's reality. They just don't have margin in their lives. In addition to that, the average household in the U.S. has over $11,000 of credit card debt, and obviously a lot of other debt, cars, houses, education, but just credit card debt alone, over $11,000 on average, which is a scary big number. Thinking about further down the road, one of the things that people should be planning for is retirement. And if you look at the numbers, a number of people do it really well, but over half of the households in the U.S., they literally don't have even $10,000 set aside for retirement yet. So they're not ready for it, to say the least.
10 grand won't go very far.
No, we burned through that last week, didn't we? I think the point is, and you hear it from Dave Ramsey, you hear it from marriage counselors and so forth. There are a lot of different issues that can impact a marriage, but when it comes to divorce and going in for counseling and all of that, money and money-related issues are literally the number one issue that are going to wreck marriages in the U.S.
Yeah. Anything, Lori, in that?
Yeah, it's so easy to spend money now, with a click of a button. And it's a lot of emotional buying that we do. And without being on the same page or having a plan, it's just too easy to spend without thinking about it. And a lot of couples do that. A lot of families do that.
Yeah.
There's just an element of money that kind of weaves its way throughout the relationship, the marriage relationship. You know, if you think about it, you've got enough issues with job stuff, house stuff, kid stuff, all the factors of relationship. And if the money is not right, that's just going to add the stress. If you don't have that financial margin, relationally, you're going to have less margin as well. So it's just a real stressor for sure.
No doubt. So obviously, locker room, here's the deal. Normal's not working. And I don't want to be normal. I don't want us to be normal. Jesus has a different plan for us. And so as we dive into what it means to be financially wise, it starts with our attitudes toward money. And our attitude and how we relate to money really does dictate how we view it, how we spend it, what we do with it. And so, locker room, I've seen Kurt in so many meetings about money, generosity, our budgets. I've come to you and your team to talk about, all the different ministry teams I've been on to say, hey, here's what we're thinking about. Here's what we'd like to see. Here's what we think it would cost. What do you think? And then, and all of our ministries will do that with your team. And then you all will get together and pray and try to discern and then try to figure out what does it look like based on our area, the area, all of our church, and even trying to think through even this plan that we'll talk about in a minute, 10-10-80, as it relates to even how our church operates. And so I've watched you in meetings. I've come to you about events that we didn't know we were going to have. I mean, we're getting ready to have one coming up,
That's
and
right.
so, and trying to figure out those things. I've watched you talk about benevolence. I've seen you share insight and wisdom about money. You've been a part of so many staff meetings where you've talked about stuff. I've seen you come in with lead team and just share where we are or forecasting hard seasons through COVID or whatever. And also just being able to talk about just, hey, we've got this much left. At the end of the year, we want to give these toward strategic partners. And that's such a fun thing to be able to say to missionaries or FCA or whoever, these, CSF, whatever, to say, hey, we love you. We love what you're doing. And so that's such a fun thing. And by the way, I've said this about you forever. You've always been clear, responsible, wise, and you're hilarious. It's fun having you. I mean, even our last staff retreat, I know that when most people think money, they don't think funny, but you're like the Nate Bargatze of finance. You are a blast. I've seen you do things up on stage with guitar. All kinds. It's been so fun. So in talking about our relationship, our attitude toward money, I thought I'd start off with a good joke. All right.
Love it.
Is it okay?
Come on.
So there's this older couple that they're always were stressed about money the whole time, super tight. They end up at the California State Fair, and they're walking around. They see all the exhibits, and they see this one guy that has this plane. He's taking people up for just $20 per person, and he looks over and he can't let it go. And he walks over to his wife. He says, "Come over. I want to." Hey, it's $20 per person. He's like, "Babe, I've always wanted to go up in a plane like this." And she's like, "How much is it?" She said, $20 per person. He's like, $20, that's too much money. And he's like, "Come on. We're in our 80s, man. We don't have a whole lot of time. Let's do this, And so she's like, "Nope, $40 is still $40. And so they keep arguing and going back and forth. Let's do this. No, I don't. No, we don't have, all this kind of stuff. So finally the pilot's like, "I just want this to stop." And so he's going, "Here's the deal. I'll take you up in the plane for free. But if you say anything," he was tired of hearing them. And so if you say anything, then you're going to have to pay me $40. They're like, that's a pretty good deal. So they agree. So they get up in the plane. They take off. They're flying around. It's great. He's loving it. I don't know what she's doing. But finally the pilot's in his mind going, "I'm going to see if I can get $40 out of this couple." And so he starts doing these dips and these twists and turns. And he does this roll. And they don't say a word. And finally, he lands the plane, unbuckles his seatbelt, takes off his headgear, and looks around and says, "Hey, you guys surprised me. I had no idea that you wouldn't make any noise, yell, or anything." And the husband said, "Well, I almost said something when Martha fell out, but $40 is $40." Listen,
I like that.
You could have used that joke.
Exactly.
I'm gonna give that joke a B+.
Exactly. I think so.
Yeah. So anyway,
in fact, that may come in handy because one of Lori's dreams is to go up in a hot air balloon.
Oh, is that right?
And let me just say, it's more than $40.
I bet.
So I may have to strike a deal like this to get me up there.
My daughter did that this past summer.
Did she really?
Overseas, yeah. Her and her husband. Yeah, it was wild. They rode a camel out to.
It was safe, I'm sure.
I guess. It doesn't look that
Sounds
safe.
great.
But it does look kind of awesome. That basket's pretty big. So anyway, it's pretty good. Our attitudes and relationships with money are shaped by lots of things. Our families growing up, their habits, how we saw them behave with money. Emotions can be surrounded by money, fear, worry, anxiety, not having enough. And then you can swing that pendulum way over to the other side where money and the love of it it's just going to make me happy. People even worship money, got to have more money, never enough money, possessions, trying to keep up with everybody else. Or maybe, you've lost a job or you've been through disability, you've had a hard season where you were laid off or whatever, and there's fear of not having enough or not having enough. How long do I have to work, or how long can I work so that I have enough to? I don't know how long I'm going to live, and will I have enough for retirement? And so, I want to talk about the origins of our families. Have so much to do with our marriages,
right?
In all aspects. But you guys grew up in different homes. I don't know a lot about your parents at all. But how did they handle money? What was their attitude toward money? What were some lessons that you got from them? Did you get any? Was it good? Was it not good? Share some of that.
Yeah. I'll start. I grew up in a family. I had 4 siblings, so there are 5 kids.
Okay.
Kind of working class kind of family, I guess I would call us. And my parents, if nothing else, they definitely taught us the value of a dollar.
Yeah.
They were, euphemistically, they were careful with money, and that was a good lesson to learn. I mean, just because something broke didn't mean you got a new one. You would figure out how to fix what you had.
Yeah.
It was just that
We're just
attitude.
going to replace it. No?
Exactly. Yeah. My siblings and I, we still joke about how, the big treat. It wasn't a treat, but if we got chewing gum, again, there are 5 kids, so you would get half a stick
We got
of chewing
half,
gum.
too.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And that's just one of those visuals in my mind. Like, man, someday I'm going to give my child an entire stick of gum.
It'll be awesome.
Living large.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
But that was just kind of the mentality that we had. But they really instilled in all of us the sense of hard work, and they laid it out there like, hey, if you want to go to college, that's great. We don't have the money to send you, so you've got to figure out scholarships, jobs, whatever it is. If you want to go to college, then that's on you. So that kind of instilled that sense of, okay, better get on it.
I got to be responsible.
Yeah.
I got to start thinking about money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't it funny? Just even half a stick of gum communicates, hey, this has value,
Right.
and we're not going to blow through it. And I know it can sound cheap or, well, oh my gosh, but it's like I remember my dad doing that. He'd give my brother and I a one piece for half of us, and we'd have to look and figure out who got the
The bigger half.
So, yeah. How about you, Lori?
Yeah, very similar. We were comfortable. I just had one sibling. We had everything we needed.
Yeah.
But my mom was very frugal. She grew up in a pretty poor family.
Yeah.
So she was careful with everything, almost over the top careful with everything.
Yeah.
My dad was a little more of a spender. He liked to have fun, and he was a little more of a risk taker. But the work ethic, I think, is the biggest thing they instilled in me. I was 12, I was babysitting for 50 cents an hour. When I wanted a horse. That was always my dream. So my dad got me a job at a horse farm. He didn't get me a horse.
Yeah.
I had to muck stalls so I could get lessons.
Yeah.
And so for 2 years I worked. And then later they got me a job. They always kind of knew people and made sure I was working somewhere. I worked at the U-Pump gas station.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you pump gas?
Nope.
Nope.
But it was
because of
U-Pump.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was the cashier.
At the beginning of self,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sold cigarettes and milk and and had to go dip the tanks at night.
Yeah.
It was, they always said, if you want extra, this is what we provide. If you want extra, you're going to have to pay for it on your own. Yeah. And that through college, that was always the thing. And that held so much value. And I think we taught the same thing to our children. If you want the extras, you'll have an allowance or you'll have a job. And
you're on scholarship here being in our family.
Come on.
Yeah.
But
living a good life.
But
you got to learn,
Yeah.
that there's choices to be made. If you want that thing, you're going to have to sacrifice.
That's really good. Yeah. You guys are Bible people. The Word of God has shaped your life. And some of this is trying to create a good biblical worldview around money. And
Right.
so I'll just I'll kick us off. We may not hit all these verses, but I'll hit some of them, and then you guys just unpack them, okay? Psalm 24:1 says, "The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it." Share a little bit
Foundational.
about this. Yeah.
Just when it comes to money, just absolutely foundational. If you really sign up for this verse, then everything we're talking about today
Yeah.
comes easier.
Yeah.
If you don't sign up for this,
Yeah.
you're really going to struggle.
Yeah, it all belongs to God.
It does.
All of it.
Yeah.
which is important. We're managing, but it all belongs to Him.
Yeah.
For me, that's something I have to remind myself of all the time because it's amazing how we try to hold on to things.
Yeah. This is
And
mine.
yeah, God keeps showing it. It's not yours.
Yeah.
You know, we do it with our kids too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
But with
that's right.
possessions, and we think it's ours, but it is ultimately His.
That's good. Deuteronomy 8:18. But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth. So even what we have, He's given us the ability to do so, and so confirms His covenant, which He swore to His ancestor, to your ancestors, as it is today. Anything in that?
I like that because someone could sign up for, okay, God's done a lot, but you know, I'm really smart, and I made that sales quota, and I hit my incentive comp target, and I did all this stuff. So that's the stuff
Yeah.
that I've done.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
Yeah, God did the mountains and the valleys and all that stuff, but that ability to create wealth and worth financially,
Was given.
that's a gift from God as well.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Matthew 6:19 through 21, Jesus says this, "Don't store for yourselves treasure on earth where moth and rust destroy, where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves." He throws it on its head. "Treasure in heaven where moth and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves can't break in and steal it." And then he says something so significant, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also."
I could talk
It's
about this one.
yours.
Yeah, I could talk about this one for a long time.
Yeah.
Because this is the verse that was stuck in my head near the end of my corporate time.
Yeah.
And it got in there and it didn't leave, and it was just, I believe, in retrospect, it really was. It was God telling me, okay, you've lived a great life in the corporate world. You've been able to do some great stuff. You've been compensated really well. Okay, put that on the shelf for a minute. What are you doing for the kingdom?
Yeah.
And so that was the verse that I used to explain to my team at Lexmark when I left, to say, I don't know what's going to be next, but this is why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I'm taking another direction. So,
And I think that the verse ahead of that, you know, we always saw the promotions or, you know, because he was very successful at a young age. And we could have said, oh, you're great. Keep doing what you're doing.
Right.
And we really saw it, not that you're not great and smart, but we really saw it as God, you know, just blessing us.
Yeah.
So how do we turn around then and use those blessings
Yeah. That's good.
for him?
That's good. Paul says this to Timothy, 1 Timothy 6:6-10, "But godliness with contentment is of great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we can take nothing out of it. But if we have food and clothing, we will be content with that. Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, and in many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money," not money, but for the love of money is the root of all evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many, many griefs."
that's really powerful. Godliness with contentment.
Yeah.
That combination of, hey, we're not just running after stuff right now, because we all know happiness is very fleeting.
Yeah.
But where does true peace and contentment and joy come from? It only comes from God, and He gives us the ability to feel true contentment in the way that He can help us shepherd what we have.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
It's good. Matthew 6:24, Jesus again says, "No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." It's interesting. He says two masters, and then he goes, let me just go ahead and tell you.
Let me tell you which ones we're talking about here.
Yeah. And then Luke 12:15, Jesus said, "Watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in the abundance of possessions." And man, we live in a world that's consumed with it, right? Anything in that just, it's a stern, loving warning.
And I think, you know, with social media and all the pressure and comparison really to other people, we've really got to watch that greed because it sneaks in, and we call it other things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We make it look kind of pretty, but
Yeah.
we've really got to watch out that we're not just chasing after more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That contentment is such a huge word in all of this, just staying content with what God's blessed us with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Jesus' teachings, it's interesting. He spoke about money and possessions 15 to 20% of the time. 16 of his 38 parables revolve around how to handle money and how to view possessions. And here's the thing, Locker Room, money is neutral. It's not evil or it's not good. It's your attitude toward it and how you use it that determines that. And so it's, I'll use this analogy. It's like a hammer. A hammer you can use to build a bunch of stuff and bless some things. It can also be used to destroy things. And that's the same is true with lots of different things, like our time, how we use our time. Our time can be used for good or for evil. The internet, our phones, it can be used for good or for evil. Social media, for good or for evil. And money are just examples of something that's neutral. But it's how we engage in those things, our attitude toward them is what shapes some of that. Jesus says the love of money is the root of all evil. Paul says that. He tells us that we can't serve two masters. Jesus says. He tells us that one of these is going to be one of the greatest competitions for my lordship in your life. And he spells it out clearly. It's money. It's important that we allow the Word of God to help shape our mindsets and how we relate, manage, and navigate our personal finance. So let's talk about this plan that we've talked about forever. You've stood on. I've heard you talk about this on stages again and again. This principle of 10-10-80. Will you guys just kind of give a flyover, stay in the helicopter, the plane, but a flyover this 10-10-80 plan. Talk about what it is.
Yeah. It is a plan that we've used at Southland to manage the money of the church.
Yeah, it's not just something we tell everybody else.
We're trying to live it.
It's how we operate as an organization.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so if it's good for us, hopefully that helps us teach families to be able to do it for themselves as well. And it's very simple. I mean, there are elements of it, but with that first 10% that you get in every week, every month, every year, you want to be generous with that first 10%. Then the second 10%, you want to kind of be thinking about the future and what's next, not what you have to spend right now, but what's the next thing that you need to be saving for to take care of yourself and your family. So that's the second 10%. And we do different things with the church budget on that second 10%. But then the 80 is when you do those things, then you still have 80% left to live on. Mm-hmm. And then you want to make the right choices within that. But again, this has been really helpful as a church in setting the budget, and hopefully it's been really helpful for those who've adopted it in our church families as well.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So we'll hit the first 10%, the first 10, which is tithing. It's in the Old Testament, it's in the New Testament. So I'll just throw a couple verses in here. If you guys want to jump in, feel free to. Exodus 23:19. He says, bring the best of the first fruits of your soil to the house of the Lord your God. Nehemiah 10:35. We also assume responsibility for bringing to the house of the Lord each year the first fruits of our crops and every fruit tree. Proverbs 3:9-10 says, honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine. The Bible gives us a couple definitions for generosity. The tithe is the key critical thing, which is given 10%. That goes back to the church in the Old Testament, to the temple. It's going toward God. And then there's also a term that's used called offerings, and that's anything that's given above and beyond the 10% that we've already given toward the church and the Lord. And these may be things that you do in lots of different phases. It could be something that you feel prompted to give toward. The Holy Spirit's asked you to help share or whatever. We do something at the end of the year, every year, called the Unleashed Offering. Right. And it's always given above and beyond toward different strategic things. Oftentimes our students this year, even toward foster care and adoption, even toward our church plants, and then also even our facilities, some of the campuses that we've done stuff for. But it may even just be simply helping someone that's in your life that's having a hard time, going through a hard season. Maybe they're in the hospital, or they've just lost someone, and maybe it's a meal or meal train, or getting groceries, or whatever it is, or maybe even just helping them with a bill. It could be helping a student that you've noticed, or you find out, hey, do we have enough? Are there students that need some financial assistance? We help them go on a retreat or a trip. Could be supporting other organizations, even consistently, like FCA, CSF, a missionary organization, a Christian organization that you just feel so passionate about, or even helping someone go on a mission trip. Those are things. It could even be something that you set aside. And we were challenged a long time ago with this, just putting in our budget something called Kingdom Assignments. And as a new couple, we were trying to figure that out, just a small percentage, and sometimes even like $25 a month. But we're just, just going, that's available above and beyond our tithe to help somebody if a need comes up. And if it doesn't come up, then we just move that 20 or 50 or 100, whatever makes the most sense and it fits inside your budget to be able to meet needs just around us. Could be people that we love, care about. It could be somebody that we don't know. It could be lots of different things. But that's the two distinctions around generosity are tithes and offerings. So let's go back to tithing. So I read a couple verses, and these two words are interchangeably used: tithing and first fruits. And back in that day, it made the most sense because they were agricultural society, So
Yes,
everybody farmed and growed stuff.
They could relate to that concept.
Yeah. And so if we're not careful, we can get lost in our present day because we don't all do that. But when crops began to grow, farmers would take 1/10 of their crops, and they would take the first fruits, which means
The best.
yeah, what comes out first. And they didn't wait for the entire
Wasn't the
harvest.
leftovers.
Yeah, they went on and gathered it,
Yeah.
and they go, you know what? Trying to make strategic sense of how much all this stuff, and going, this is what we think we should give, and so they would just give it first, and then they would trust the Lord to take care of the rest of the harvest, which I think is important. But they gave off the top, and they trusted God with the rest.
As a gardener, the best fruits are the first fruits.
Is that
By
right?
the end of the harvest, it's
Yeah,
not as good.
It's not as good.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So it really is the
So
best.
we give God our best, and we're reflecting Him because He gave His best for us, So translation for us is we don't wait until the end of the year if we can avoid that. Figure out what is exactly we've earned when you get a check or when you get paid, whether that's once a week, every other week, or once a month, whatever that is. You give off the top and you partner with Him. And you're trusting God that He'll take care of the 90% that you have left. It's you either trust Him with 90% when you're given the other 10%, or you go, I'm just going to trust myself. And it's like God's been faithful and good, so that matters. But we give back to God again because He's generous. He gave His one and only Son, and so He's always only been generous to us, and so He calls us to reflect His generosity. The only time I think of in the Bible that God says, "Test me," is in the very last book of the Old Testament, which is Malachi. He says this in Matthew 3:10 through 12. He says, "Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I don't throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that you will not have room for it. I will prevent pests from devouring your crops, and the vines in your fields will not cast their fruit, says the Lord Almighty. Then all the nations will call you blessed, for yours will be a delightful land." God's saying, hey, just trust me and test me and see if I don't demonstrate faithfulness by providing for all of your needs. And it doesn't mean, it doesn't mean that if you give 10% that He's just going to give you more money back. It may be lots of different things. Sustaining stuff in your life, or just providing blessings in a way that you had no idea about. Our washer just went out. And so I literally have been to the laundromat twice this week. And there's a friend of ours that's on staff that she had her grandmother pass away. And I was telling her about, she goes, we have one. And so, that's just a way that God provides, in places that you have no idea,
I just love the fact you pointed out it's about the only time in the Bible when God says, test me in this. And I think that's just a reflection of he knows and He knew that money and possessions can be a stronghold in our lives. And we can kind of put all of our worth into that and forget about Him. And I just think it's fascinating that of all the things that are covered in the Bible, that this is the area that He chooses to, the words used are just different than everything else in the Bible.
Yes.
Fascinating to me.
That's good.
Yeah.
New Testament, this is the church. It's begun. It says there was no needy persons among them, for there were time to time when those who own land or houses would sell them, and they'd bring the money from the sales and put it at the apostles' feet, giving it to the church, and it was distributed to anyone as they had needs. That's what ministry dollars are. We're trying to provide for the needs of people through the ministries that we operate under. 2 Corinthians 9, 6 through 8. This is important. Remember this, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly. Whoever sows generously will also reap generously. Each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly, not under compulsion, which means we're not trying to manipulate anybody. This is not about trying to get more money in our church today. It's about trying to help people understand what it means to trust God. But then it says God loves a cheerful giver. And then God says, God is able to bless you abundantly so that in all things at all times, having all that you need, those alls are important, you will abound in every good work. And then Paul tells Timothy, 1 Timothy 6, 17 through 19, command those who are rich in the present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides for us with everything for our enjoyment. Command them to do good, be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In this way they will lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. Generosity is not just in the Old Testament, it's supported in the New Testament. And the biggest reason that people don't give is not because they don't want to. It's not because they're selfish. It's not because they don't believe in God or what's happening in a church. It's not because they don't want to be generous. It's just because they're fearful. We live in a world that's constantly, be afraid of this, be concerned about this. Oh my gosh, what if this happens? And it's fear that if I give my tithe and something happens, what happens if I don't have enough, And so the crux of this is, can I trust God with this 10%? Mm-hmm. And will he take care of me? It does come down to faith. Mm-hmm. And here's what's crazy, locker room. We'll trust God with our past, all of our sin, because of what he did on the bloodstained cross. And then we'll trust God with our future one day when we die because of the empty tomb. The question is can we trust him with our now? Mm-hmm. Will he be faithful? Will he be sufficient? Will he be enough for us now? And so, Karen, Laura, you guys have had conversations about tithing with lots of different people, married couples. Do you guys, in those conversations, share insights or practical things that you've tried to help them along the way? Because it's almost like a speed bump that you just kind of have to rock over it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so what insights or thoughts have you shared with some of them just to encourage them to take that step?
Well, I think part of our story is for people to understand that we didn't roll out of bed our first day of marriage and say, well, let's write that check to the church for 10%. It's been a journey for us as well. Yeah. And I still remember with great clarity back at our first church when we first got married. We were living in Indiana, and there was an older couple, and I had a lot of respect for this gentleman, and I don't even remember the context. It was some kind of a committee meeting or get together or what it was, but I just remember he and his wife talking about their journey of tithing.
Yeah.
And I think at that point in their lives, they were tithing like 25%. Mm. I mean, it was just incredible. And they were a normal couple, if you will.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have thought that necessarily, but that was just a real defining moment for me to say, oh, we're being generous on a very nominal level in my mind at that point, where I was really convicted to say, we've got to do something about this. And so we've got to start where we are and just kind of move toward tithing.
And he came home. I wasn't at that. So I didn't hear it. And he came home and he's like, we're gonna start tithing. And I had taken over the books. And, we were both working. Yeah. We had a baby, new house. And I was like, where is that going to come from? Mm-hmm. There's no money at the end of this budget. Yeah. And the wisdom he had was, we're going to work towards it.
Yeah.
So let's make a plan.
That's
and
good.
And by this time,
talk about
we're going to get there.
Yeah. So did you start giving a percentage of a percentage?
Yeah,
Is that what you did?
We just kept bumping the percentage up until we were there. Yeah. Until we were comfortable.
That's wise.
Yeah.
Because you said this, there's never going to be a good time. You said we're both working, we had a baby. I mean, so it's like, where does that all of a sudden fit?
Right.
I mean, you're just going to have to decide, hey, we're going to step out on faith and try to trust him. Mm-hmm. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, the fun thing about it is how my heart changed, how God changed my heart in doing that. Yeah. I started writing the checks. That was back in the day you wrote checks.
Yeah, I know.
And I'd write 4 checks at the beginning of the month. That was our tithe. Yeah. And I it was an act of worship, writing the check and then putting it in the offering every week.
Yes.
In fact, I resisted online giving for a really long time. Kurt was like, we really need to online give.
Yeah, I like to. Yeah, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
thankful for online giving, but we just don't ever want to forget that it's like when we sing or when we serve. It's
Right.
It's when we give.
Release.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going, God, thank you, and I want to give this back to you. Yeah, that's so good. Anything else in that? Because if not, then we'll talk about. Has there been a couple that you've seen take the step, and maybe they were reluctant or scared to death, and you've just kind of watched them or followed their story along the way? Has there been anything like that?
I don't know if we've got anyone that we could point to specifically
Okay.
without revealing anything.
Yeah.
But as I think about that question, the interesting thing is, in a weird sort of way, just our stepping out for me to step out of the corporate world and
Yeah.
was on a certain track and so forth, to be able to now, after over 20 years of doing ministry, to look back and say, we tried to be faithful in pursuing this call, tried to be faithful in our generosity, and I mean, God just did us one better all the way through. I mean, to sit here and think of where we are versus where maybe, even though we were quite sure this was the right direction to take. I mean, it's just been confirmed that He has taken care of us, and part of it is, I want to emphasize that part of it is that you're going to get your physical needs met and be able to live life and everything else, but part of what He provides for you, the other side of that coin, is your heart, and Lori kind of mentioned it.
Yeah.
I mean, to work on our heart and our contentedness, to be able to say, you know what, we were kind of tracking, and there was the pressure to kind of keep up.
Right.
We were always a little bit good about not getting sucked into that too much, but changing our heart so that we didn't do that comparison thing and think about, well, we've got to buy a house over here now, or we've got to take this kind of vacation, or we need to do all those things that people that I was working with, quite honestly, that was just kind of normal.
Yeah.
And it was just the way it was.
Right.
And so part of His provision for us and for people who are pursuing this path can be not just taking care of the money part of it, but taking care of the heart piece, to be able to sit down at the end of the day and say, you know what, we are really content and we're really joyful with everything that we have, no matter what that amount of things is.
Sure.
So I think that's been a real learn for us, or a great confirmation for us.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's funny because as you think about this too, it's like for the couples, there's so much anxiety or gosh, when we do this, and like, when's the last time you had anxiety about giving? It's been a long time, right?
long time.
A long time.
And what I'm saying is you just take a step and you work toward it, but eventually you get to a place where you go, yeah, he's shown himself to be faithful. He's shown himself to be good.
Exactly.
He's aware of what we're doing. He's not out there somewhere else. He's engaged in our lives, and we've been okay in the midst of all this, even with less margin for ourselves. He's provided. And so, locker room, if you've never taken that step, and I love what Lori said, you just baby step your way toward that. And if it's given 2% or 3% or whatever it is, and just over a period of time begin to figure out your budget and what that looks like, I just think that you're going to find yourself in a place where you go, man, He's faithful and He's going to provide. So let's talk about the second area, the 10 savings. There's some interesting verses, Proverbs 6 through 8. He talks about ants. He says, go to the ant, you sluggard, consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer, no ruler, yet it stores its provisions in the summer and gathers food at harvest. And so this ant's got to get stuff when he needs it because it's going to be tough. And so somehow they save, and they're going, hey, we should do this, this matters. And so Proverbs 13:11, dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers money little by little makes it grow. And it's developing this habit over time, demonstrating wisdom and stewardship. And then Proverbs 22:7, the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is a slave to the lender. When we save for something instead of just buying it and paying it off on credit, we're not enslaved. It creates more margin for. We have to. If we don't have to have it now, we can move toward it. Just like you said, when something breaks, we don't just go out and buy it. We got to have the money to buy it, or we're going to try to figure out how to fix it. That's important. And then Proverbs 20:21, the wise have wealth and luxury, but fools spend whatever they get. And so this whole idea about the importance of adding discipline to your life when it comes to savings. And again, we don't want savings to be an idol. We're not, Jesus talks about this guy that he tears down his barn to build bigger barns. He says, you're a fool. So he's not saying that. Don't make it, but he's saying you do need to be wise. There's a fine line in doing that well, because there's all kinds of things that can happen. And so we want to set aside money for emergencies. A car could break down, hot water breaks, your washing machine goes out in the middle of the cold. We set aside money for vacations that we want to make. We set aside money for a down payment for a house. We set aside money for kids' education as we can, or as we're able to, for a future car or something that we want to buy. We set aside money for retirement. And it's most people just aren't thinking about down the road. You guys are in this season where you're able to you didn't have to go anywhere. You just felt like this is the season that God's put you in. You go, yeah, why don't we do that? And so, but being able to be in a place where you can do that is so important. And so there's some questions there around this idea of saving. Why don't you guys tackle those?
Well, I think there's one of those trite expressions of people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan.
Yeah.
And you just kind of went through a number of different things that people can and should save for. Yeah. And it's going to be different things at different stages in life.
Right. That's
at first, you're just building up that emergency fund. And then you're maybe starting a family. And then you're maybe buying a house. All those different things. You can think about that, hope for that, dream for those things. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have a plan to save X percent, 10%, it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
you're never going to get there because you're going to spend as much money as you take in. Yeah. And, we've gone through different seasons, and we know what that's like to come to the end of the month, and it's like, man, there was a lot of money coming in, but there was a lot of money going out. I mean, it's natural.
Yeah.
It's natural. Yeah. Unless you kind of put that stake in the ground and say, okay, now we have to get serious about fill in the blank, retirement, buying a house, kids' education.
This car ain't going to last forever. Yeah.
Right. And so you have to face that reality to be able to say, all right, how can we spend a little less here and put some money aside for the thing that we know we want to take care of, and we want to take care of that ourselves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think this is an area that Kurt did a really good job. Money kind of disappeared and was being saved that I didn't even know about. There's ways you can save for the future where it doesn't really impact your day-to-day budget. It just comes out and it's gone.
Yeah, right.
And he did that really well. So
human psychology there.
Don't let her see it.
Be truthful, be open, honest. But there is a natural inclination. If you see it's available,
it's a tactile number.
What's going to happen?
Yeah.
As opposed to a little bit like the first fruits, there's a second fruits to say, okay,
that's great. I like that.
Just get that out of the way, out of your field of vision almost, so that you just don't consider that, and you're going to live on the
in that agricultural society. They ate quite a bit of that food, and they tried to save some too. I mean, that's just the reality.
Yeah.
Let's tackle the 80%.
Yeah.
Okay. The budget, the spending, our personal finances. Proverbs 21:5, the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. We have to have a plan for our money. Jesus uses this analogy of having a plan before acting on it. It's not ready, shoot, aim. It's aim, ready, shoot. And he uses this analogy. And again, I'm just going to use the financial aspect of it. He's more so talking about what it means to really follow Jesus. But he's saying, for what you desire to build a tower, does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he's able to have enough to complete it. Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation, is not able to finish, all who will see it will begin to mock him, saying, this is a man who began to build but was not able to finish. He's saying, trying to come up with a plan, project well, be wise. And then Luke 16:11-12 says, if you are untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches of heaven? And if you are not faithful with other people's things, why should you be trusted with things of your own? Matthew 25 talks about the parable of the talents. They're given these different sets of talents, and they're all called to go out and do something with them, to invest them wisely. And two of them double the amounts that they have. And the guy that comes back, again, this is a parable, but he rewards them with more. And then there's one that he had the fewest talent, which would have had the least amount of risk, but he didn't do anything with it. Right. He buried it, and that didn't go well. And so living on a budget, being disciplined with your personal finances is super important. And right now, I know that our economy is trying to cool a little bit, but everything is expensive. Everything is. And so some questions that you guys or just walk through some insight, some practical things about how to craft your budget, thinking about wants and needs, practical things.
Well, in our home, at least early on, Kurt had a lot of debt from grad school, and he had a real plan to get rid of that debt as quickly as he could. And so I'd say monthly, he would come home with a new budget, and he was always so excited, and he had colored spreadsheets, and it was almost a PowerPoint.
It's so sexy, Kurt. That's so
He would walk
She'd
in,
love it when I
and
talk
it'd
like
be
that.
a budget meeting, and I'd put my head on the table. Here
this
we go.
man. Were you already in charge of the money?
Yeah.
Were you already doing that? Okay. And he's bringing you new scripts.
He's bringing me the new spreadsheet.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
But it was always good. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
great conversation to have. It's so important for you both to be on the same page.
Yes.
This is what we're trying to accomplish.
It's an us.
This is the end goal.
Yeah.
And so it was hard at the time, but
Yes.
I surprised him. I don't know how far into marriage we were, but I brought him a budget.
Did you?
Yeah, it was
How about
probably
that?
20 years
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
But
Speaking
I
my love
came up
language
with
there.
the budget.
I love this woman.
Finally.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Oh, but yeah, it is it is something that you have to work through. One of our early marriage stories, one of the many times I would bring a budget
Yeah.
for her consideration, is one of those Braun family sayings now, because I started off the conversation. I said, "Okay, so here's the deal," and then I kind of went through the budget.
Yeah.
And she was silent the whole time, and I get done, and she says,
That's no deal at all.
and so,
You knew exactly.
exactly. And so if one of us slips up in, we're talking about the weekend or some plans or whatever, and, hey, what's the deal, this weekend, or we're seeing the kids or whatever, and go through the whole thing, and then the other one of us has to respond, that's no deal at all. It's just one of those things we just remember from that budget conversation that I thought this was a great deal.
Yeah.
And she was like,
It's got to be an us.
come on.
And that's important. Too often what will happen in couples is that one of them just drives it, controls it, dictates all of it, and that's not good either. Somebody's got to take the lead, obviously, but it's important that there's conversation, that there's clarity. In fact, Sarah and I just did that this past weekend. We're trying to figure out even a new vehicle, potentially just online type budgeting thing. We're looking at this specific thing, and so we were talking about the difference between that and Dave Ramsey, and just kind of thinking that through. But it's just good to see where things are, and even if she's the one that pays, but I want to know. I mean, I trust her, but it's not about trust. It's about being in the loop and making sure that we are able to talk and for me to ask questions, or for us to have understanding together as we're pursuing what's next, or what do we think about this month, or what's coming up here. What do we think about our girls? I got 2 girls left for weddings. I mean, there are things like this, all kinds of stuff that comes to mind. But any other insight or tools or resources that you guys have used along the way, or just even practical things that are helpful for couples?
Yeah.
I think in presenting that budget, he wasn't like, okay, you've got to follow this to the T, and he never looked at the finances. He's never looked gone through. It's like, oh, what did she spend? He never watched but it was always like a reset. Okay, where are we now?
Yeah.
And what might have gone wrong, or what, what do we have to tweak a little bit? And I think he always allowed margin,
good.
for extra.
Yeah.
Because you have to do that. If it's so tight, it's going to break.
If it's so tight, it's unbearable, and it's no fun. There's no joy. I mean, and sometimes you got to do that if you're in debt, trying to figure out, we got to squeeze some stuff. These are our needs. These are our wants. We're just going to do with needs, not our wants. But
Yeah, you've got to be realistic. I think one of the other practical things that we would share, and we've talked about this with younger couples that we've had groups with, and some of them do this really well, but just that notion, especially early in a marriage, what is the time that you're going to put into, okay, is this once a week?
Yeah.
Is this once a month?
That's good.
What are the rules that we have put in place as far as we're not going to spend more than X amount of dollars on something without talking to our spouse?
Yeah.
We're going to get together for 15 minutes every Sunday night. We're going to look at our calendar. We're going to look at our checkbook. Variations on that. I think there's one couple we know who literally on one of their date nights, they'll talk about that before they go on their date, which is, again, what a beautiful relationship they have. So,
So romantic.
That's right. That's right. It might change where you go to eat. You know what I mean?
it might. Yeah.
We're not getting that popcorn at the movie tonight, you know. So, but yeah, trying to figure out where it works for you.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this long, laborious. As long as you're organized and you come up with a plan, it's good to check it. And you're going to have to figure out the frequency. And maybe at first you do it more often. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And more often doesn't mean longer. It just means more frequently. And then if you can get to a place that maybe it's every other week or even once a month, you can do that, depending on what you get paid, when you get paid, and all those type of things. I think that's really helpful. Since we're talking about debt, let's just hit it quickly.
Yes.
You've already mentioned the average credit card debt, and the average debt is so much more than that. Our nation's in debt. I mean, all of that. But we guys distinguish between good debt and bad debt. That's not an easy thing to discern, but we just talk about that first.
Sure thing. And it's tough to just put
I know
a label
I'm
on each
forcing
one,
you.
but that's okay.
I don't mean
that's
that.
okay. I think in general, good debt. You're going to have debt in order to buy a house in almost everyone's circumstance, and that's something where you're truly investing in an asset that hopefully over time increases in value, and there are tax reasons, all the stuff. So that in general is good debt. Educational debt can be good debt depending on the circumstance.
Yeah, that's right.
I know, like Lori mentioned, I came out of grad school with debt, and it killed me. It killed me in my brain and in my heart because I got out of undergrad with no debt. Again, my parents weren't able to help with college, but through scholarships and part-time work and so forth, I didn't have any debt. Then I went back to grad school. We entered our marriage relationship with debt, and that's one of the color charts that I would put together every month was because it just bothered me that we had that kind of debt.
Yeah.
And so I was showing how much we were paying and above and beyond the minimum and saying, within three years and 7 months, we're going to be done with this.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to have it. So educational debt can be good, but you really have to be realistic in terms of the college you choose and the financial weight that you take on to do that. Do you have a plan where that's going to pay off in a way that's going to help you down the road? Or are you just going to college because your friends are? You're just going to a certain college because that's where your parents went, but you're going to end up with the debt. There are a lot of aspects even of that.
Yes.
And clearly bad debt, credit card debt almost goes without saying, but that's almost always not a good thing. Car debt I'm not a fan. We're big fans of you buy something about 3 or 4 years old with some mileage on it and let someone else pay for the depreciation.
Yeah,
we had one exception to that.
We had a candy apple red Grand Caravan that we bought new.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we
Pretty
took on
early
debt.
in life.
We had payments. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And somebody spilled a milkshake in it the first week. It was painful.
That was God smiting us, just for the record.
Yeah.
He was. He's like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Why are you buying a new vehicle?
Makes sense.
We'd made it, though.
That's right.
There's a lot of resources around just debt retirement, things like that. Any that would be encouraging to share?
This is an area where Dave Ramsey does a really good job with kind of talks about the snowball and so forth, pay off, certain debts first and free up money in the budget so you can tackle the next one.
Yeah.
But wherever you go, whether it's Ramsey or somewhere else, the point is you need a plan and you just need to be realistic in terms of, okay, here's the payment amount that we're talking about that'll help us get out of debt. And it is just such a different world on the other side of getting out of debt.
Yeah.
It's just it's life-changing financially, but relationally and emotionally and spiritually. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It is it's going to change your sleep patterns. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even paying off house debt, being aggressive in
Yeah.
getting that paid down. It's real freeing once you own your own house, and don't have those extra.
You don't have,
payments.
because that's typically the biggest, it's your
Absolutely.
typically your biggest budget area, and so
And
when
it
you don't have that,
boils down to contentment.
what you can do, where how you can share, where you can give, how you can bless are big things.
Yeah.
So a lot of men on this podcast, and obviously some men and women based on this one that will be shared, but a lot of them have kids and could have young kids or teenagers. You guys even shared a little bit about just what your parents share for you, but how did you guys tackle some of these questions or teach or train your kids around the idea of finances and stewardship? What were some things you proactively did? Were there any mistakes that you guys made, buying that candy apple? Yeah, I'm kidding. But what did you teach your kids about money? How'd you try to help them?
It's funny. We asked Josh, one of our sons,
Yeah.
what he remembers us teaching him, and he remembers the 10-10-80 plan.
Does he?
And then as we talked through it, it's like, oh yeah, when we gave them an allowance, when we started that, it was cash, so we divided it up. This is savings.
Yeah.
This is your
Almost like
tithe.
envelopes or
This is-
jars. We did
yeah.
that with our kids
them.
early on too.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was something we did with them.
Tell them about the lunchbox.
Oh, I kind of took it from my parents. Anything extra,
Yeah.
Here's your allowance, but anything extra you have to buy. And we went to an antique mall. Kurt's parents were in town, and my daughter found this Mickey Mouse lunchbox, and
She was
she had
probably
her
about-
money. She
she
brought
was
her money with her.
25.
She was 5.
5 years
She
old.
was 5 years old.
Yeah.
And she walked around with that lunchbox, and she couldn't decide. She had money in one hand and
Yeah.
the lunchbox clutched in the other, and she decided not to get it. She couldn't part with the money.
Yeah.
But it was fun to watch her
Yeah.
make that decision.
Right.
Of,
This is all going to be
this
gone. I've worked
important?
towards this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the grandparents were with us. So when she got home, she had the lunchbox.
They completely ruined that
That's
teaching
right.
moment.
That's right. That kid's in so much debt now because of that. I'm just kidding.
They never got me a lunchbox like that when I was a kid.
Isn't that funny? How you can be a lot more generous as a grandparent, I think. So that's a great story. That's so good.
And they all had jobs early. We kind of,
Right.
Yeah.
we made sure,
Yeah.
babysitting.
Yeah.
They all did fast food. Josh said that too. He's like, I remember you making me get a job.
And I think if looking back now, though, we probably, or I could have been more purposeful in teaching.
Sure.
I think I took a cue almost from my parents where a lot was caught, not taught.
Yeah.
And so I kind of can default to that.
Yeah,
and I
sure.
think in this area, in retrospect, I wish I'd been a little
bit
more
intentional.
and laying it out specifically more times than what we did. But
that's good.
That's
Yeah.
something to encourage
Yeah.
folks who are listening to this. It's like, yes, they absolutely they notice what you're doing, and they they're going to catch on to that, and they'll hear you talking about it. But don't make it kind of on the fringes. Make it very purposeful conversation to say this is what we're doing and this is why we're doing it.
Yeah. I mean, even for some people listening and they have adult children now, and maybe they didn't manage it well, steward their money well, maybe they were into debt and it was super stressful and they're working on it now. It's okay to, that's what I tell guys all the time. Hey, listen, you can't go backwards. You can't get in a DeLorean and go back in time, but you can own the things that you need to and talk about the ways that you're growing and own, if you need to apologize, those type of things. But just, it doesn't mean that you can't share wisdom now and to go, man, I missed the boat on this, or I wish I'd have been more intentional, or we didn't do this well, and I'm sorry, but this is what we're working on now. I just want to encourage you in whatever way that looks like. Does that make sense? That's a good thing to do, right?
Good wisdom.
yeah.
For sure.
Really good.
Yeah.
Well, we made it to the end. So I'm going to give you the final word. Any final young couples, people new in faith, trying to figure this out, couples who maybe didn't grow up with a lot of this teaching around this stuff. Any final things that you go, man, I would encourage them this way or challenge them this way? Anything that comes to mind?
There are a couple things that these can be applied to a lot of different
Aspects of life, yeah.
not just financial, but being around here for a while and being kind of the finance guy. Different people would search me out at different times and say, "Hey, can I talk to you about my financial situation?" And so there are a couple things that would kind of be common themes during all those conversations. Number one was it's a good to great principle. Confront the brutal facts. I mean, if you're trying to figure out what's happening and you're trying to figure out if you can do better down the road, it's like, that's great, but let's make sure we get all the cards on the table. Let's just be realistic about everything. And with your spouse, you need to be completely open in terms of, is there any hidden debt? Is there any hidden issue that needs to be brought to light? So confront the brutal facts and figure out exactly where you are right now. Okay. And so then kind of related to that is a second piece of it, and that is no matter where you are, when you take that inventory, if you will, no matter where you are, and I would tell people all the time, it's like, whatever you're going to tell me, I've heard better and I've heard worse. So don't, just talk to me about it. So what I would tell them all the time, and usually as people unpack their financial stuff, similar to other issues as well, they want to spend some time talking about how they got into this situation, right? And so, and I want them to express all that, and I want to hear their story. But they spend a lot of time talking about, well, this person did this to me, and this person disappointed
Rationalize
me,
and justify
my parents didn't do this, or they did do this, and so they give you all the background and all the baggage that got them to this point. And that's okay. But I tell them once they do that, I say, that's fine. But the important thing is, this is where you are. Again, this is where we're starting. And we're going to look forward and figure out what are the steps you can take to get better.
That's right.
You can't drive around New Circle Road. You want to do it and drive. You can't be, let's put it in reverse and see if we can make it around here.
That's right. It's just,
so
where are you now, and then what are your next steps?
What are your next steps?
Brutally honest, and that's so important. You saying that because there's a lot of couples that when the Bible says that the two became one, it's a cod. It's one life, which means and you say this at our workshop. You say, hey, if you're coming into marriage and you're broke, you're both broke. If one of you's rich, you're both rich. If one of you in debt, you're both in debt. And this idea of going, hey, this is a one thing. This is not I got this thing over here and you got this thing over here.
Right. We're
one. And that's so important for marriage to talk about. Keep going. You had some other thoughts.
Well, it's just that I always say I would be the worst counselor in the world because again, like I've met with people on their financial things more than once, and for what I just shared, I mean, I feel like I have to keep going back to that. Like, the wisdom, if it was wisdom that I just shared on how to approach their issue, it's like if I meet with them a second time and they still want to go back and talk about all the reasons that they did this, I'm like, we talked about this last time. We don't have to revisit this at all, because I know therapists and counselors do that all the time. They have to kind of hash and rehash and everything else.
Right.
Stop it, people. Stop it.
That's right.
Here's where you are. Let's figure out a game plan and figure out the small steps that lead to bigger steps, that lead to bigger victories and managing your money. And again, the financial, the wealth part of it, that's the touch point. But what's really going to change and really has to change is the heart. Like, are you ready to do this? Are you ready to say, God, it's all yours. Help me steward what you've given to me.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Lori, anything else?
My encouragement would be to really have grace with each other too. You're both moving at different speeds. But it is your team. You're on the same team, moving in the same direction. So to just have grace with each other and keep moving forward.
And hey, you didn't get here overnight. You're not going to get out of it
Exactly.
overnight. It's going to take some time, so be patient, a lot of grace. Keep working together, stay close. Ramsey says you must control. You gain control over your money, or the lack of it will forever control you. Hebrews 13:5. Keep your life free from the love of money and be content with what you have. And then he says, I'll never leave you, never forsake you. Any practical resources that you go, these would be great resources, regardless of where you are, when it comes to either budgeting or just trying to understand, just God's heart for money in marriage? Anything that comes to mind for you guys?
There are a lot of great resources out there, and I know the church is going to be doing some things this coming fall and get more people involved in some of this. But Crown Financial Ministries is really good. If you go to crown.org, they've got some really good biblically based money tools, if you will, and studies and variations of their core principles show up in kind of small group studies that you can knock out in just a couple of sessions, and then there's kind of bigger studies and so forth. So crown.org is good. Of course, we've kind of referenced Ramsey a little bit, so RamseySolutions.com has a whole bunch of really good practical products that you could hopefully find to be really helpful as you kind of go on this journey.
Yes.
Like, he's really good at practical, put it on a shelf where people can reach it, and let's go for it. So that's good. Here at Southland specifically, we've got a great ministry relationship with a group called Financial Planning Ministry, and they do some work on wills and estates, and you can do this even though if you go to a typical attorney or website or whatever to put your plans together, we have a relationship with them that allows people to do all that, make their plan for after they leave the earth. They can do that at no out-of-pocket cost to you. And so we've got a webinar coming up April 13th and October 12th are the dates for 2026. So you have to get registered for those, so look for that. And there are, again, so many great financial resources. There is it's not a big book. It's a pretty easily digestible book called The Treasure Principle by Randy Alcorn.
I love that book.
And it really is. It's money. It's spot on so many things. And again, you can get through it. You don't have to worry about, gosh, this is a 300-page book. It covers all the stuff that we've talked about and then some in a really good format. So,
That's awesome. We'll stick all that stuff in the show notes.
Okay.
You guys are awesome. Thanks so much for coming in. Happy retirement.
Are you going to leave me alone now?
I'll leave you alone for a little while.
All right.
Yeah, I want to see you, though. That's for sure. I've enjoyed my time with you. Grateful for all the stuff that we have gotten to do together, but just thankful to have you both in, for sure. Locker room, don't sidestep this important topic, man. Share this with your wife, your girlfriend, your fiance. Figure out how to begin to engage and have some conversations. These are great steps today. Figure out how to put your heart and minds as a relationship around this 10-10-80 idea, and just take steps. If you got kids, start thinking about how you can help them understand their attitude and relationship toward money. Chuck Swindoll says the distinguishing mark of a Christian is love, but the silver medal, the red ribbon, the first runner-up is generosity. God is so generous toward us, and every day we get to operate. We have air that we breathe as a gift from Him, and so He's so good to us, and He's so generous, and He wants us to be more like Him. So, Locker room, what's your next step? Have the conversations, implement some plans, begin to dig out the right rhythms, get out of debt, live within your means, trust God and steward it well, and set the example by what you're learning, how you impart that financial wisdom to your kids. This matters. Make it a priority. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much for coming in. All right.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So if this podcast has encouraged you, I'd love to hear from you. If you're wrestling with Christianity, need help taking your next step, or want to give your life to Jesus, shoot us an email at lockerroom@southland.church. As always, if this podcast has encouraged you, share it with a friend. This one in particular is really helpful, very practical. This would be a great thing to share with your kids that are adults, or some friends of yours that you know about that maybe are struggling, or just something to encourage them with. Thanks for listening. Get after it. We'll catch you next time on Locker Room.